I think I'm very aware of where I started
Mm,
because again, I didn't go to school for this. This is all practice, looking up things on YouTube, reading books and whatnot. So I think that I'm just very aware of my journey
mm,
and like the work that I used to put out.
yeah.
I think the cool thing about this is that, you can only practice and get better,
Yep.
which has been a lot of fun for me. So like over the pandemic, for example, where, you know, things were slowed down a lot, I would pick a topic to focus on in photography or
Mm,
videography. So like I'm gonna go learn this new skill. I'm gonna go try this new technique or whatnot to just like keep putting more tools in my belt.
mm.
But in my head, it feels like I haven't been doing it for as long as I have. And so yeah, I mean, I still remember some of my very first shoots and I just keep those tucked in my back pocket.
Feel to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and going back to that same photographer that I've interviewed previously, something I've asked him, and then something I've asked all other creative types I've talked with, is that why are my art is podcasting, yours is photography, videography. Why are we so hard on ourselves? It's like why are we so like nitpicky about it? So when it came to you learning about those different subjects you wanted to focus on during the pandemic, how did you not just say like I gotta walk away for like a day and then come back to it?
Mhm. I think that if I'm struggling on something, I am very comfortable like putting it aside and coming back to it because and even then, like let's say for example, I'm like really excited about a photo that I took and I want to edit it right away. Sometimes I will edit it, let it sit, and
Mm,
then come back the next day with fresh eyes because
mm,
I'm in such a creative flow that the next day I might see it a little bit differently. Maybe I'll say, you know what, I don't want the photo to be that warm, or I don't want these colors to be as intense.
yep.
And it kind of lets me step back from the excitement of the moment and look at it with some fresh eyes. Um, and then in terms of just being hard on yourself, it's that took me a minute to get comfortable with as well.
Yep.
Is I think that nothing will ever be perfect, and if you try to go for perfection all the time, it's actually going to slow you down. And I also don't think that other people are as critical of us as we are of ourselves because
Mm,
I'll be editing a video, for example, and sometimes I'll ask a friend to kind of review it with me, and I'll be like, "Hey, if there's a clip that doesn't make you feel something, flag that for me because I want to remove it. But
mm,
those are my standards,
yep.
and maybe other people's standards aren't that high. I'm thinking of, like wedding clients, for example, like
Yeah.
they absolutely love it. And me, I'll watch it and say, oh, I could have done this, and that. But I think at the end of the day, it's like don't let perfection stop you from being consistent and like getting better. So
Mm.
obviously there's a line with that. But I think that what I've learned is that like I don't need to be so hard and so critical of the work because it's actually going to slow me down with producing great results.
For my work right now, it's like, I help people in the financial industry like find out how much your business is worth. So it's one of the things they work on is like, oh, like a questionnaire. So I tell them that, when it comes to entering something for value of like you're not completely 100% comfortable with, but you're pretty close to it, go ahead and submit it. And then they always seem to have the hardest time of like accepting that. So when it came to some of your earlier work of like, I'm not happy with this completely, but I don't totally hate it. And then when you send that off, what kind of thoughts go through your head when you send that to a client? And you're like, there were some parts I'm like, I'm not 100% happy with this, but I'm not really mad about it. Like, how do you fight that? How do
Yeah.
you find that balance?
I think a good way to look at it is, does it meet the client expectation? Because
Mm,
sometimes their expectations are not the same. And that's also why usually when I'm working with the client, no matter who they are, I ask for a shot list of
okay.
things. So, I think some photographers, and I always go through this too, like when I first got into the game or like when I first got into
Yeah.
doing video, it's like, oh yeah, when I go to this shoot, I'm going to promise, this number of photos. I'm going to promise this length of video. And
Uh-huh.
what was actually more important was, did I get all of the shots that me and the client agreed on? And then we can start talking about the volume of things. So
Okay.
that also prevents, I think, there from being any gaps. Is like we talked about a shot list. We know what our expectations are, and then we can both meet that. That makes it a little bit more clear in my head. So, and then I think just being communicative as well. Like there are some things, for example, on a shoot, like I tell people, let's say we're just doing, a portrait shoot or something like that. I
Mhm.
tell people like not everything that we try is going to come out as a final result. There might be a moment where like, oh, this scene looks cool, this bit of light looks cool. Let's just try it out, but if it doesn't come out, I'm not going to deliver it, obviously. So,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the level of expectation is set pretty much during that first conversation of like, this is what you're asking for. This is what I'm going to try and give you. If there's some a little bit more, I'll give it my best.
mhm.
Basically. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's just key to understand like what we're both expecting out of it. And I think there always ends up being more. It's like for a wedding, for example, we talk about the main things that they want filmed, and then I can fill in the rest based on the story that I see that day. So it's like,
Okay.
obviously we're gonna film like your first look and your ceremony and whatnot, but I'm also
Oh,
gonna get like the scenery, I'm gonna get your guests interacting, like maybe like your parents are there or something like that. So like there's still those elements that I can fill in that help bridge the expectations that we set. So it's like we
okay.
have this shot list and then we have those areas that kind of happen naturally that I can grab and then help bridge the whole video together.
Okay. So in the case of one of your, or you did a couple, or there were a couple wedding videos on your website, which I'll put the link in the description below. It's for Lauren and Cody, and then Ruby and Landon. So for those two, um, what was some of the happy accidents, or like one of those like, oh, this could be fun, and then you take the photo or you do the video, and then when you see it again, you're like, oh, this all right. Okay, let's throw this in and hopefully this works out well. So, what was at least one from each of those weddings? If you remember to the best of your ability?
Yeah. So I like that you picked those two because they're also two very different weddings. Like
Yeah.
Ruby and Landon got eloped on a mountain, and Lauren
Yeah.
and Cody got married at this really beautiful venue down in Temecula, California.
Yeah.
I think with Lauren and Cody's wedding, and this is true of just any wedding day, is that like the weather is going to play a huge part in the kind of lighting that you get,
Yeah.
and also where you choose to shoot. So like
Yeah.
uh, if we have really good overcast lighting, we can kind of shoot wherever we want on the property because there's not going to be any harsh shadows. Like the colors look the way that you want. Versus, let's say that it's a really bright and sunny day outside, so we've got super harsh light. We might not want to film outside, but because the light is so strong, it might give us an opportunity to film inside, for
Mm,
example.
okay.
So I don't think we had any happy accidents that day. But one thing that I loved was that at the end of the night, we kind of did their solo shots and then some of
Uh-huh.
their friends and family shots out on the golf course in this kind of pond area, and the lighting was just beautiful. Like it
Nice.
was the whole venue was amazing, and like that scene in particular I loved it because it gave us a lot of flexibility with the kind of scenes that we wanted to grab.